Uh, and that kind of takes us to our next passage. You want to start off with that one?
Sure. This is a New Testament account of how praise can be weaponized, I guess, for lack of a better term. And this one is found in Acts chapter 16. Um, this is the story, it's a popular story about uh, when Paul and Silas was locked away in prison. Uh,
Okay.
what happened was uh, Paul and Silas were in a place uh, and there was a slave girl that they ran across, and she
Mm-hmm.
was possessed with the spirit of divination, and her masters would make money off of her. She would tell people's fortunes, and they would get paid off of that.
Yeah.
And in verse 17, chapter 16, verse 17, it says, this girl followed Paul and cried out, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God who proclaim to us the way of salvation. Verse 18 says she did this for many days, but Paul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out that very hour.
Right.
So, you know, and if you read the New Testament accounts of Paul, Paul was kind of a surly dude. He could he could get out there, and this girl was following him around, and this she really just got on his nerves, and he understood that it wasn't the girl, it was the spirit that had possessed the girl.
Yeah.
So he said, "All right, well, I'm just going to just exercise the spirit. That'll that'll shut her up. You know." Um, and so by doing so, verse 19 it says, "When her masters saw that their hope of profit was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the authorities." So they lost their livelihood. Her masters did.
Yeah.
So they had Paul and Silas arrested. So what happened was, verse 22 says, a multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates tore off their clothes and commanded them to be beaten with rods. And when they had laid many stripes on them, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them securely.
Yeah.
And having received such a charge, he put them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. So they didn't just go to a holding tank. They went to
No.
they went to prison, locked all the way down, um, beaten and locked up. And now, having been in jail before, I can tell you it's not a very good feeling. The effect that it has on your attitude, right? Like you initially get thrown in there, you're like, oh man, clearly I'm not in a good place. Um, and so all these toxic emotions start to well up inside you, right? And in these people's case, Paul and Silas, they really didn't do anything wrong. So now you have this negative attitude on top of the fact that I don't deserve to be here. Why am I in here, right?
Yeah.
How I was sitting here serving God, and now I'm in jail. But this doesn't make it. God, Paul could have easily said, "God, what are you doing? What
Yeah.
are you doing? Why us? Because we only
Yeah.
came here to preach
Yeah.
to preach Jesus Christ. And then now I'm in this. I mean, he had me baffled.
Yeah.
But
Can
go
go
ahead.
ahead. So yeah, one thing that I want to bring out here in this lesson is, and like in verse 22, when you said that the multitude rose up against them, and then the magistrates tore off their clothes and then commanded them to be beaten. So one thing that I learned in those days, people of standing, they wore robes. And but like the slave guys, they only had enough clothes to cover their private parts.
Mm,
So in this situation, they Paul and Silas find themselves where these people, this crowd, are now trying to remove their identity and transform them into something less than who they are.
Good point. Great point. Mhm.
And then they further, so they go from being citizens to becoming slaves.
Mhm.
When you find yourself, when people try to, when the enemy tries to come at you and transform your identity, and change and let you know, or say to you that you're not a child of God, or that God can't protect you in this, or that God will not be with you in this situation. No, I'm the one who's in control. And then you find yourself locked in a prison. You find yourself locked in a situation that is beyond your control.
Mhm.
Then what do you do?
Now available from Real Talk Global Ministries, the debut minister Cedric Iglehart, Real Life, How to Develop an Intimate Relationship with God. This book, based on biblical truths, will show you what you have to do to develop a personal and deep relationship with God, and the things that you need to do to develop and maintain and increase that relationship's intimacy. Available now at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. If you want to support this ministry, we also have merchandise available, including t-shirts with the Real Talk logo. T-shirt sizes run from small to 4XL. They are available by sending an email to realtalkglobalmen@gmail.com. And coming soon, Real Talk hats, hoodies, mugs, and other things.